So why am I telling you this heavy story? This monumental milestone. He said that I had done what no one else could have done. I made history.
The magnitude of my actions.
I made history.
November 19th is also International Toilet Day.
I made history. Thank you. Thank you.
Many times, if not every single time, victim narratives cover up an extreme sense of entitlement and sense of self-importance. Victims who try to convince other people that their lives are particularly hard. Aside from pity and attention, victim narratives are a way for these people to get privileges. Complain long enough and you'll get your will seems to be their motto. Lilly Singh is a walking victim narrative. Let's find out which persuasion and manipulation tactics she uses. Why make a video about this? Because victim narratives are running rampant today. Self-proclaimed victims who have the exact same opportunities as everybody else, if not more. How do we stop this cycle? By breaking down what these victims actually say. Also, since it's Singh, a self-proclaimed comedian, there's a bonus for us. The many funny jokes. Frankly, I was laughing the whole time I made this video. I just couldn't help it. I hope you stay with me until the end, even if we're going through tough times watching this TED Talk. Let's go for it. Let us know in the comments what you think about this talk.
From the moment I came into this world, I was already a disappointment to so many people. It's as if they had a time machine and already knew the trajectory of my entire career and life and decided that I had less to offer. And it sucked.
So many people, and they, she says, making her claims sound vague and unspecific, which is what a victim narrative most often is. Anything to appeal to the audience's emotions and pity, and set the stage for what it's really about, convincing people that the victim speaking is an inspiration for other people.
So why am I telling you this heavy story?
I don't know, for pity? To make your achievements in life sound that much more astonishing. Also, who said anything about it being heavy? Isn't that up to the audience to decide?
After all, I'm supposed to be a funny person. I have the nerve to come out here and hit you right in the feels. How dare I?
Firstly, it appears that this audience has been instructed to, will laugh at anything. Secondly, according to the argument model, this is called a rebuttal, the speaker anticipating objections to the claim they're about to make, and Singh is indeed about to make a claim. Brace yourself.
I'm telling you this because although this is my lived experience, it's also the reality that millions of girls face every day across every culture and in every country.
Every culture in every country. In this day and age, that's what I call a bold claim, and a generalizing one at that. But I'm sure she'll give grounds for this claim, because, as I'm sure she knows, without grounds you don't have an argument. I'm so excited to hear them.
And I'm telling you this because being born into this reality set me on a lifetime mission of trying to prove myself and just feel like I was enough. What did I want to be when I grow up? I wanted to be treated equally.
No grounds. I have to say, that comes as an absolute shock to me. Next, without any proof of her victimhood, she proceeds with the next phase of any victim narrative, making herself and her story, which I believe is the popular term for it, sound special and unique. Not that we had any doubt, of course. Unique people always have the need to emphasize just how unique they are.
Right, and so my marching orders were clear. Get a seat at this coveted table by any means necessary. And that's been the driving force behind my entire career. Now, in 2010, I noticed that no one on YouTube looked like me. There was no me in front of a camera. I saw a seat up for grabs. So I got to work and I started a channel under the name Superwoman.
To have a seat at the table, which I'm quite sure someone else has said too.
And I was invited to pull up a seat at the table.
Is the worst possible motivation for starting out on social media that should be about making content you enjoy making and that other people enjoy watching. This makes her motivation sound self-serving. Also, her motivation is especially bad for a self-proclaimed comedian. One of the great things about actual comedy is that it's devoid of political agendas and virtue signaling. But not if you ask Singh, apparently. Let's watch a few seconds of her show to see if it makes us laugh.
We're celebrating International Women's Day, y'all. Now, don't worry. You don't have to remember to go out and get anyone flowers. You just have to remember to go out and fight for equal pay for women in the workplace. Yeah.
I think it's by the checkout at CVS.
Now, I know there are guys out there thinking, oh, International Women's Day? Why don't we have an International Men's Day?
God bless you, Twitter.
Well, you're in luck, because you do. It's actually on November 19th. But you wouldn't know that because you're too busy celebrating it every other day of the year. Also, fun fact, November 19th is also International Toilet Day. Now,
I tried. I really tried. It's probably just me.
Yeah, because although I'm smart enough to do a TED Talk, I'm not smart enough to understand copyright.
There's nothing funnier than a comedian laughing at their own jokes in order to seek validation from the audience. It doesn't ruin the joke at all. Also, humble brag is another one of my favorites. There's nothing like highlighting that you're doing a TED Talk by a deliberately self-deprecating statement about something you allegedly don't understand.
I'm not smart enough to understand copyright.
And in case Singh hasn't heard, a TED Talk isn't a stamp of approval, but a sign that you've been allowed into the Buzzword Club, or that you're Elizabeth Holmes. That earns you a TED Talk too.
We've made it possible to run comprehensive laboratory tests from a tiny sample with the nanotainer.
And next, the wonderful and inevitable self-promotion.
Now, fast forward to 2015, and I'm on stage in India announcing my first world tour. As fate would have it, the day after this monumental milestone, I was set to fly to Punjab, India, to visit my grandfather for the first time in my adult life.
Self-promotion based on unsubstantiated victimhood. If the rest of a talk is this great, we're in for a real treat. Next, we move from self-promotion to self-aggrandizement.
And whew, nothing could have prepared me for what was about to happen. I vividly remember it. I was in the car, driving to his house. He was standing outside. I nervously got out of the car, walked up to him. He walked up to me. He looked me right in the eyes, and he raised his hand and decorated me with a flower garland, a gesture fit for people of importance. He said that I had done what no one else could have done, and I had made the family name proud.
November 19th is also International Toilet Day. Now,
We notice the overly long and dramatic build-up to this unexciting climax, underlining her joy in telling this and how much she wants the audience to empathize with this incredible story. As she hyperbolically claims,
Nothing could have prepared me for what was about to happen.
well, I wasn't prepared, but somehow I managed to stay perfectly calm. But once again, it's probably just me. And that's the thing, she's instructing the audience to think that unexciting events are actually exciting and astonishing. This is impression management on full display. Once again, this reminds me of someone else. I don't know why.
A pivotal moment reshaped my notion of what is possible. This commercial, I realized the magnitude of my actions. At the age of 11, I had created my small level of impact.
Next, notice how Singh can't turn the self-aggrandizement button off, because it's so deeply ingrained into her personality. She keeps finding ways to highlight her alleged success, while pretending that there's a noble reason for this highlighting. And I say alleged success because many of the views she gets aren't exactly from fans, to put it mildly.
I've amassed almost 15 million subscribers and 3 billion views. But more important than all of that, I managed to change one view. I challenged my grandfather's entrenched gender beliefs.
The reason why we know that it's her success she really wants to highlight is because she's juxtaposing two different definitions of the word view. Views on social media are something you can count. Her grandfather's view, in case he even had this view, and she's not just making it up, has to do with beliefs. That's not even the same thing, but Singh doesn't care because this is about making sure that the audience knows how successful she is. More important than all of that, she says, implying that she's achieved a lot.
Now, in 2019, I made history with my late night show, A Little Late with Lilly Singh. Thank you. Thank you.
Made history.
I think it's by the checkout at CVS.
Also, history compared to what? History because she was talented. History because it was a good show that the world needed. No, history because of Singh herself and her story, which once again reveals a constant focus on self and her wrong motivation for starting to do comedy, with an obvious bitterness and resentment towards an unfair world, which she euphemizes as having a seat at the table.
International Women's Day is only an official holiday in 26 countries. And wait for it, the US is not one of them. That's right. Seriously, what's up, America? You can't give an official holiday to women?
She literally says thank you before we hear the applause, thus encouraging the applause.
A Little Late with Lilly Singh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
It's almost as if she knows when and where the audience will react. Wait. By the way, the show was cancelled after 2 seasons. Don't ask me why. I think it sounds great.
You wouldn't know that because you're too busy celebrating it every other day of the year.
I learned very quickly that whenever I spoke of money, people got a little uncomfortable. Like the time I pointed out the gender gap in the Forbes list for online creators, a list I'd previously been on. I remember wanting to start a critical conversation because I saw this article and I was heartbroken. You know, the digital space had always been a place that I thought was without gatekeepers, and here it was looking just like old Hollywood. But let me tell you, the internet was not interested. I don't know how it's possible, but it literally felt as if Twitter leaped through my screen and body slammed me onto my desk.
I wonder why people didn't like that. I mean, it's not like talking about a gender gap when it comes to something that people choose to watch or not watch out of their own free will. Is comedy in itself, and by the way, it makes it sound like she's not as content with her huge success as she's trying to make people believe that she is, which is exactly why she feels the need to highlight her success in the first place. This wasn't Singh talking about money and making people uncomfortable as she's trying to convince the audience into thinking. This was her raising a pretend ideological issue for self-serving reasons. She didn't want to start a critical conversation. This was about her being upset about not being on a list she had even previously been on, and trying to divert from this fact by invoking a discussion about gender, which seems to be everybody's favorite go-to diversion tactic nowadays. Previously, she said that she wanted to be treated equally.
I wanted to be treated equally.
But now, unsurprisingly, we learn that that's not what she's interested in at all. Even when the public has spoken, and even though it's obvious that names that are much bigger than hers get more money, she still wants what other, more successful people have. But a critical discussion sounds much nobler than the truth, of course. She was heartbroken for selfish reasons, not because of the imaginary gatekeeper she talks about. And who is this convenient gatekeeper? Well, that's as unspecific and unreliable as the claim itself.
I quickly learned that there's an invisible gatekeeper called culture.
Blaming culture, which is actually people's free will, who they want to see and who they don't want to see, sounds a lot like someone else who couldn't substantiate this unknown entity either.
And you look at that and go, how have we culturally allowed that to be the case? There's nothing wrong with talking about a woman's success or her ambition or her financial prowess. Why is it culturally we are equipping girls and women to think that if you are ambitious, there's something negative about that word?
Singh's real problem is that she thought she was in the same league as the people she compared herself to, but it turned out that she wasn't. That was her mistake. But instead of owning up to this mistake, she conveniently blames an abstract entity, culture. However, that's what being treated equally looks like sometimes, getting a wake-up call. So all she demonstrates with her complaints is that she obviously hasn't been willing to learn from her mistakes. Yet the appeal to pity continues.
To say the budget was small, the writing staff even smaller, and to do the first season, I had to shoot 96 episodes of late-night television in 3 months. Who was right? To put that into perspective, that is shooting 2 to 3 episodes a day versus the network standard of 1 a day, maybe 2 on Thursday. We did it all with a writing staff of about half a dozen writers.
Even if for a moment we actually believe these numbers, so what? There are people who work 50 hours a week, and there are people who would put in even more work in order to have their own show. What Singh's actually admitting here between the lines is that she wasn't cut out for this job, wasn't willing to go the extra mile, because real success takes inordinate amounts of effort. You can't hide behind platitudes and gender discussions for that. But that's the beautiful thing about victim narratives. You aren't supposed to ask counter questions, so that it's made known that the victim isn't a victim at all. Politicians and media need victims. For politicians, it's to have an excuse for their political decisions and to appear kind and considerate. For media, it's to get high ratings.
Words cannot explain to you how exhausting, emotionally and spiritually challenging that was.
Spiritually challenging? What kind of vague platitude overload talk is this? I wonder how other talk show hosts managed to get by, not to mention how they started out. Well, as with everything else in this talk, which is really Singh trying to cope with the fact that the show didn't work out, let's not think about it. Next, she unintentionally reveals more and more about why it didn't work out, and it has very little to do with workload and everything to do with her personality.
And sometimes I was successful.
I think it's by the checkout at CVS.
But other times, I would receive notes like, "Don't be so loud. Don't be so big. Don't be so angry. Smile more."
These are standard criticisms that everyone gets, and they aren't even harsh. But Singh wants us to think that even this is too much, which unintentionally speaks to her personality.
Now, during season 2 of my show, I remember I went into overdrive. I found all the loopholes, I did all the necessary jobs to try to make the show more timely. But my take was almost never included in topical media news coverage roundups.
The reason why she gets all these shocks in life that she obviously still hasn't recovered from is because she lacks self-awareness. She compares herself to experienced and established hosts. The victim narrative Singh has memorized and uses as a coping mechanism has blinded her from realizing the simple truth that she wasn't cut out for the business she pursued for the wrong reason, to have a seat at the table, as her talk is called, but which really means demanding influence right here and now for no apparent reason.
I kept trying to pull up my seat. I kept trying to join the dinner conversation. I kept trying to ask for a more supportive seat. But every time I would be told that I should be grateful to have a seat in the first place.
No, she thought she was unique and thought it would be easy to convince other people about her uniqueness. When she found out it wasn't easy, she made it about gender and workload instead, because her proud personality doesn't allow her to take accountability. Also, I'd like her to prove who actually told her this, because it sounds so conveniently oversimplified and strangely in line with her own thinking. I wonder why. She wasn't trying to join the dinner conversation. That would require actual gratitude. She was trying to decide what the dinner conversation should be about, her and her opinions, because that's what she unintentionally keeps emphasizing again and again, that she should be involved in the public discussion, not because she has interesting things to say per se, not because she has a special talent, but because, given her amazing personal story, it follows that she should be heard, according to her fallacious worldview. Such an extreme sense of entitlement will always clash with reality, because in reality, your alleged story isn't a substitute for talent. Reality requires talent and commitment, or at least that's how it used to be, because with all the victim narratives today, it's very likely that these victims are slowly changing this, that it's actually possible to complain your way to pity and privilege, even though these victims aren't victims of society and culture, but of their own pride, and much to the audience's and colleagues' dismay. This explains why Singh doesn't know what the word gratitude means.
But every time I would be told that I should be grateful.
She wasn't grateful because her ambition always exceeded her talent.
And the strange thing about having a wobbly seat is that you spend so much time trying to keep it upright that you can never bring your full self to the table.
Full self. Another clear and honest expression. I mean, it's not like it's an excuse for behaving badly, so that when someone complains about your behavior, you can say, "You just can't handle me," or similar lies like that.
So, now, why am I telling you all this?
This is the first qualified thing we've heard in this talk, and it appears that Singh knows that the audience asks themselves this 11 minutes in her 19-minute talk, because making excuses and pointing fingers was and is her top priority.
Well, because my therapist costs $200 an hour and this is way cheaper. But also, the solution? Build better tables.
Because I'm sure Singh is the right kind of person to teach CEOs, entrepreneurs, and all people how to build better tables. I can't wait for this. Can you? We're about to enter the land of no arguments and no accountability.
I would like to present to you a set of guidelines I very eloquently call How to Build a Table That Doesn't Suck. I've been told I'm very literal. However, let's be clear. Although gratitude feels warm and fuzzy, it's not a form of currency.
She keeps showing us that she has a problem with this word, gratitude. And actually, it is a form of currency because you need to have gratitude, not as a deceptive tactic, but because it's part of who you are as a person. But Singh doesn't realize that, or rather, she doesn't want to realize that because, again, her ambition has always exceeded her talent, and she went into the business for all the wrong reasons. In case Singh hasn't noticed, people are able to detect something like that, no matter how much she tries to convince them of her unfair workload.
Women are assigned 10% more work and spend more time on unrewarded, unrecognized, and non-promotable tasks.
The one thing that's truly amazing about this talk is Singh's ability to consistently make unsubstantiated claims and draw false but highly convenient comparisons. First of all, where's the proof that these tasks are unrewarded, unrecognized, and non-promotable? How does she even begin to define terms like unrecognized and unrewarded? And in what context? Or even better, how does she establish the causal connection she would have to prove between an unrecognized task, whatever that means, and said task being non-promotable? Has Singh ever been to a workplace? Does she know that everyone does non-promotable tasks all the time, no matter who they are? Because she's so focused on getting to the top without earning it first. Everything that isn't promotable is beneath her. Which again is exactly why she has a problem with the word gratitude, because she can't appreciate a personality trait she doesn't have.
Basically what this means is all the things men don't want to do are being handed to women. And a lot of those things largely include things that advance inclusivity, equity, and diversity in the workplace.
Notice the hitching language, expressing equivocation in order to grant herself leeway. When someone says basically, they show awareness of the fact that they're simplifying, or in this case, oversimplifying or lying about something. A lot of, she says, because she knows she doesn't have exact numbers, a proof of this.
And a lot of those things largely include things that advance inclusivity, equity, and diversity in the workplace.
Singh thinks it's enough to mention the buzzwords, but how does she know that a lot of these things, which sound so clear and specific by the way, have to do with the buzzwords? How is she able to objectively link these two entities?
And women, yeah, go ahead, live it up, live your life.
Singh is the prime example of how you shouldn't conduct yourself in a workplace, least of all in an industry which depends on audience's perception of you. Strangely, I've come to appreciate Singh's platitude spiritually challenging, because analyzing this TED Talk has definitely been spiritually challenging. It looks like we made it to the end. If you liked the video, click the like button and subscribe for more videos. See you next time.